to Inner Peace Better Health, your weekly dose of clarity and courage with Saima. And today we are joined by Tricia E. Parido, emotional wellness strategist, powerhouse educator, and the unapologetic voice behind Turning Leaves and the Total Emotional Performance Methodology. Tricia's mission is simple but radical: guide high performers out of emotional chaos and into intentional mastery. If you're tired of bandit solutions and ready to get real about your mental game, this is the conversation you have been waiting for. So, Tricia, your work is all about turning panic into precision. So, what does emotional precision actually mean, and why is it so essential today?
You know, it it's such a big topic. So, I like to get a hold of everybody just for a second if I can right out the gate and ask them to think about it, right? Like we often are in a space where we're just sitting there. We feel like we're holding it all together on the outside, but on the inside, we are just emotionally fried. And we're silently wondering how long we can keep doing this. And I'm talking to those folks, whether they run a business or they run a household, right? Or carrying that mental load, the emotional weight, and the decision fatigue for everyone. In fact, studies show that emotional exhaustion affects 72% of all professionals, even those ones that look like they have it all together. 89% of women say they feel chronically overwhelmed, and 69% of stay-at-home parents, they're reporting symptoms of emotional burnout even though they love their role. And so we have this ecosystem of people functioning day to day trying to keep up with the next person, and it just induces this internal pressure to perform. And so we have anxiety, we have panic, we have fear, we have overwhelm, and then we have that chronic need to paint a picture or a facade that everything is going well for everybody else to see. Does that make sense?
That completely makes sense, Tricia. So, was there a moment in your life when you had to make this exact shift for yourself?
Ah, I love talking about this because here's the deal.
Mhm.
For years, I thought that control was the answer, right? So if I could just manage every detail, every risk, every reaction, every unknown, then I would finally feel safe. But control wasn't really saving me. It was actually breaking me. And that showed up on two different occasions, right? So first it showed up the day I jumped off of our moving boat because I just didn't feel like I was in charge, and it became unbearable for me. So I jumped off the boat and swam to shore, right? And it was moving. And then it showed up another day, and I found myself curled up on the floorboard of the truck. And in my mind, right, I was convinced in my own horror that there was a crash or a tragedy that was inevitably going to unfold as we were driving along the coastline. And so I was just trapped in this state of emotional reactivity, swinging between explosion and shutdown because my mind was wired to react, not to respond. And that cost me a lot.
That I love how this isn't about perfection, but about power through self awareness, right?
Hmm. Well, okay, so when we're living in that state of being where we have to control or we get derailed, right? And so derailment for people can look like irritation, agitation, annoyance, frustration. We could be so wrapped up in being right that we dig our heels in, and so everything's a fight and we're constantly going up against a brick wall, or we're snapping at the kids, or we're directing our employees from a place of, anger. Anyway, all of that reactivity costs us and it drains our peace. It drains our clarity and it robs us of true confidence. It keeps us in a state of overthinking. It keeps us in a state of second guessing and feeling like success is just out of reach. So we are in that state of, oh my gosh, I can see where I want to go. I can see how I want to see myself experiencing living. I know what I want it to look like, feel like, sound like, but I can't seem to get there the harder I try. So this constant state of emotional reactivity and control needs, it steals years of your life because you're trying to fix something that you don't even know how to name. And that's where I come in, because I don't just teach emotional intelligence. I teach total emotional performance as a skill set, a system, and a strategy that lets you regulate your emotions under pressure. So that's without numbing, that's without avoiding. I teach you how to lead with clarity instead of self doubt and burnout, and master your emotions so that nothing and no one can hijack your mind, your emotional state, your physical well-being again. It's about managing stress and about training your brain for agility so that you move through life with power, precision, peace on your terms, not someone else's blueprint.
Mm-hmm. That's noteworthy. Now, you work with high achievers who often look fine on the outside but are crumbling inside. So, what emotional patterns do you see most in the crowd?
You know, so if we just lean in here to the, everyday entrepreneur, whether they're a solopreneur, a CEO, a business owner, whatever that might be, what I see the most is that internal pressure to measure up to everybody's looking to be an influencer, to be well known, to be liked. So we have this external locus of control. And what that means is we're relying on people, places, and things outside of us to bring us peace, joy, comfort, relief, value, validity, and worthiness. So the thumbs up, the comments, the shares, the again, the influencer status to make us be successful, to be complete. And so we're constantly chasing. And what I see is people's fatigue from trying to live up to somebody else's measuring stick. So they may say, "Oh, I want to be just like the boss babe." Yeah. And I want to be her. But what they don't do is they don't dig in the right way. They don't look and say, how do I need to do the steps and processes she did for me? How do I need to add, edit, delete, change, shift, morph them, make them my own? So we read these self-help books, or we go to the self-help workshops and no slam on Tony Robbins, love the man. The Brendan Burchards, love the guy. Been following him for years, right? But when you try to do things, when you try to fit your life into somebody else's method, somebody else's modality, somebody else's system, it can fall short. Instead, go to the seminar, read the book, and take what you learn and incorporate it into your life in a fashion that will serve you. Take what you can use and leave the rest, but always keep it in focus that you are trying to measure up against your own stick. This is how I want to see myself experiencing living. This is how I want to experience my environments. And this is how I want to be received inside of those environments. And that's how you create it. It has to be unique, right? It's because you're a unique individual. So that internal pressure to perform and measuring to something outside of you creates a lot of the issues that I see. with emotional stability.
I completely agree with that. So, why is emotional chaos often mistaken for drive or ambition?
Ha, because here in the States, we were all raised and conditioned to this grind culture. The more
Mhm.
you get accomplished in a day, the busier you are, the more successful you are supposed to be perceived as. And so we are always chasing, always, always, always on the go. We've got to look for that next big thing. We got to be the next big thing. We got to, like, oh, what's the next cutting edge, this, that, or the other thing. I think my favorite piece of advice somebody gave me was, ah, just be happy with the practitioner I am and serving the folks that do come. Stop trying to chase people that aren't ready for what you have to give.
Mm-hmm. It's wild how burnout can wear a mask of success, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. You know, when we mask and I don't know, it's like wearing a costume, right? We mask a lot of things. We mask who we truly are, right? We don't enter into the day open, honest, genuine, transparent, and authentic. We mask how we think or how we feel so that we can be perceived by somebody in a way that we think they want to. We do a lot of assuming, right? Like we go, oh, I think that they want to hear me say things this way. And I find this a lot with when you get into the niching or trying to present yourself in a way that will sell yourself to whoever it is your audience is, whether it's the PTA members so that you can be in their clique and be liked by them, or if it's again out in these, trying to create your no trust like factor on a social media platform. We're always presuming that we know what somebody wants to hear from us. And instead of just asking, right? Like, how can I help?
Mm-hmm. Now, your total emotional performance method is redefining coaching. So, can you share a breakthrough moment from a client that exemplifies this work?
So, total emotional performance is a culmination of a lot of things. So we have, I have to lean back into every person is a unique being. So until I've met them, I can't necessarily tell them what the roadmap is. And so I meet with every person on an individual basis, unless they, of course, they don't want to and they want to, poke around on their own, which is fine. And that's what the app is for, so people can get a taste of what I offer and what look working with me might look like, feel like, be like. And that's why there's the total emotional performance app with the foundational level one that is completely free, so people can come in and get that. But so total emotional performance is all about creating the roadmap that is going to serve you from an emotional standpoint. And so it has to take where you are currently and where you want to be. So when I'm working with professionals, I have a big job because number one, I have to teach them how to live for themselves first without feeling guilty, selfish, punished, or restricted. I have to teach them how to protect their heart, their soul, so that when they get done working with people inside their lives, because most of the professionals I work with are coaches, therapists, psychiatrists, psych professionals, mental health professionals, and so we work with people on big heavy things, and so we have to cultivate this ability to sit with them, be with them, and guide them without taking on that heavy weight, so that when we get done with our day, we can walk out of our office with a smile on our face and a skip in our step and engage with our personal life so that we can do that. And so that's part of the big thing is removing that overwhelm, that heavyweight and creating a completely agile way of functioning so that we can move from place to place, whether that's networking, again, the PTA, our home life, engaging with our spouse, our children, right? These are all different areas and aspects of life. And then there's dealing with ourself, and then there's dealing with our business. And so we need to, we need to find that rhythm, the rhythmic space for our own soul aligned energy. And so that, spirituality is a personal aspect for all beings, I think. And so until I've met somebody, I don't know what that might look like for them. I know for me, right, I have my God, my earth, my universe, and for me that's all wrapped up together. So everything that I do has to honor that, but it also has to take into consideration my morals, my values, my ethics, and my integrity. And that's all intertwined into my spirituality, which is what drives me every day, which allows me to show up in a genuine and authentic space. And I think the more that I can serve people from that aspect, the more I get to give people that kind of peace in living.
Mm-hmm. Your approach, Trisha, really strips the fluff. It's really refreshing to hear real strategy meet raw truth.
Thank you. Um, you know, taking people down the journey, whether it be in a long program, which, I don't generally start with people saying, oh my God, we got to spend a year together. Because if I'm doing my job, I'm working myself out of a job. And so, I like to pace myself with each individual because I think it's important that we honor that person, not our methods, not our programs, not our courses. And so all of my things are set up so that they can be completely personalized and structured for the human being sitting in front of me. And they are all, however, seated in evidence-based practice. I am, behavioral psychology is very important to me, and helping people through the knowledge that I've gained while obtaining, I don't even know how many credentials at this point. I think there's 15. None of that matters. What matters is that I've been given a gift to translate that knowledge for everyday use by everyday people. And so if I see somebody with strengths and I don't really want to call them weaknesses, but areas of opportunity for growth, I want to know how to incorporate things. So whether we spend, you know, 10 one-on-one sessions together going through a series of short lessons, or if we spend, 12 to 16 weeks together, or, 12 months, I don't know. And we usually will unfold that in small increments because everybody hits an aha moment, a space of connecting with themselves, right? As a being, um, cognitively, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, that I can't project. And sometimes that aha moment and that clicking point where things just really start to unfold rapidly happens quickly, and sometimes it takes a little longer, right? Depending upon how deeply masked that 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 true issue is. So, when I'm working with somebody that comes to me and says, hey, I need to change my relationship with alcohol, usually what we uncover is that it's not the alcohol at all. It's a control need. It's an internal message that they adopted from somebody else that didn't belong to them in the first place. It's the bad act of another being and that violated them in some way, shape, or form a long time ago that needs to be packaged up. It's the coping skills. And if we weren't taught emotional intelligence, if we weren't taught how to self soothe, if we weren't taught self directed emotional regulation, then we won't have it. And so we have to go there. And I think that, as a societal rule, we are taught to rely on things outside of us. We, we fall down, scrape our knee, and our mom might give us a popsicle. We go to the doctors to get our shots and vaccines, we get a lollipop, right? External reward, external soothing. We we have a birthday, we get cake. We get a good grade, or we, graduate with honors, we get a party, and everybody, so, and then we grow up thinking like at the end of a hard week, we deserve to go out and get intoxicated. And that's giving an emotional purpose to something, whether it be food, alcohol, shopping, another human being, whatever it is, it's giving it an emotional purpose that is inappropriately assigned. So,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
mhm.
That was indeed remarkable, Trisha, and a really fire-filled, clarity-drenched conversation with Tricia E. Parido. Our message is clear. You don't have to live in panic. Presence and personal power are all learnable. And for all our listeners, connect with Tricia and explore how emotional performance can rewrite your story. Until next time, be bold, get honest, and keep choosing.